My name is Ben, and for my entire life, I just wanted my father's approval. He was a good man, a hard worker, but he had a very simple idea of what success looked like. It was a traditional job, a big house, a big car. My dreams, my ideas. He saw them as a waste of time. He told me, "Leave, you don't belong here." He had no idea that his words were about to become the fuel for my biggest victory. If you're watching this, drop a comment below and let me know where you're from. And if you have ever been let down by someone you trusted, please like and subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. My older brother, Robert, was everything my father wanted me to be. Robert was a businessman. He had a great job at a big company, a beautiful family, and he always followed my father's advice. My father was proud of him. He would always say, "Look at Robert, Ben. He's doing everything right. He's a winner." My father and I were different. I was always working on an idea. I was a software developer, and my dream was to create an app that would change the way people lived. My father would always look at me with a sad look on his face. He would say, "Ben, you're so smart. Why don't you get a real job?" His words always hurt, but I never gave up. I knew that my ideas were good. I knew that I could be successful. But my father's disapproval was always a shadow over my life. Last year, I got an amazing idea for a new app. It was a new way for people to connect with their family and friends. I worked on it every day, every night. I put all my savings into it. I had no time for anything else. My father saw that, and he was not happy. "Ben," he said to me one night, "your brother is getting a big promotion. He's going to be a manager. He's going to be rich. And you're still working on that little hobby of yours. It's a waste of your time. Leave, you don't belong here." My heart sank. My father's words were a cold, brutal blow. I tried to tell him that my app was going to be big, that it was going to change everything. But he didn't listen. He just shook his head and walked away. He had said what he had to say. I was heartbroken, but I also felt a different kind of feeling. It was a cold, quiet anger that came from deep inside me. He thought I would give up. He thought he had taught me a lesson about success. But he had no idea that his words were about to give me the greatest gift of my life. He had no idea that he had just given me the fuel I needed to make my dream a reality. He thought he had silenced me. He thought he had won. But he had no idea that the next morning, a very official-looking document was about to arrive. What were those court papers about? And how would my family react? My father's words, "You don't belong here," were the last thing I heard that night. I walked out of the house, a broken man. They thought they had won. They thought they had taught me a lesson about success. But they had no idea that a few hours later, my revenge was about to arrive. The next morning, I woke up to a phone call. It was my mother. "Ben," she said, her voice shaking, "I don't know what's going on, but there's a lawyer at the door. He has some court papers for us." I was in complete shock. I couldn't believe it. The revenge was already here. I had no idea what was happening. I went to the lawyer's office, and he handed me the court papers. I read them, and my heart began to pound. It was a lawsuit. A lawsuit against my father. A lawsuit that was about to change everything. My father was the owner of a small business. A business that he had built from the ground up. He was proud of it. He would always talk about how he had built his own empire. But he had no idea that I had a secret. A secret that would not only change my life but would also change his. For the last few years, I had been working on a new app. It was a new way for people to connect with their family and friends. The app was a massive success, and I had a huge investment from a tech company. I had become a millionaire. I had kept my success a secret from my family because I wanted to see if they would still love me without my money. They had just given me my answer. I had used my money to start a new business, a new company. A company that would not only change my life, but would also change my father's. I had a new plan. A plan that would not only get my revenge but would also teach my father a lesson that he would never forget. The lawsuit was from me. I had sued my father's company for a massive amount of money. I had sued him for something that he had done to my mother. He had cheated her out of her inheritance. I had found out about it through a friend, a lawyer, who had helped me with my app. My father was in complete shock. "Ben," he said, "what are you doing?" "I'm getting my revenge, Dad," I said. "You told me that I don't belong here." "You're right. I don't. But I'm going to make sure that you don't either." The family meeting, where the father had told me I was worthless, had now been replaced with a court case. The family was in complete shock. They had no idea that I was about to get my revenge. What will happen when I go to court? And how will my family react when they find out the truth? The courtroom was quiet. My father was sitting across from me, his face pale with fear. He had said, "Leave, you don't belong here." But now, we were both here. He had no idea that his words were about to become a painful memory. And he had no idea that I had a secret that would change his life forever. This is the story of how a single lawsuit changed everything. The court case was a blur. I had spent months gathering evidence, talking to lawyers, and building my case. I had a clear goal in mind. I wanted to get justice for my mother. My father had cheated her out of her inheritance, and I was going to make sure that he paid for it. The trial began, and I presented my evidence. I showed the judge the legal documents, the bank records, and the emails that proved my father had cheated my mother out of her money. He had sold her inheritance and used the money to start his own business. I had a clear case, and my father's lies were falling apart. My father was in complete shock. He couldn't believe it. He was a proud man, a man who had built his own empire. But now, his empire was crumbling. He was being exposed as a liar, a thief, and a cheat. The people who had looked up to him, who had worked for him, were now looking at him with disgust. The judge made his decision. My father was forced to give my mother her inheritance, and he was also forced to pay for her legal fees. He had lost his business, his money, and his reputation. He had lost everything because of his own greed. I had won. But my revenge was not about money. It was about justice. I had gotten justice for my mother. I had gotten justice for myself. I had shown my father that his words, "You don't belong here," were just a lie. I left the courtroom and never looked back. I had my revenge, and it was a sweet, satisfying revenge. I had proven him wrong, not just with my success, but with my integrity. I had shown him that my worth wasn't in his approval. It was in my own self-respect. I had found my vindication, not just in my business, but in my life. I had learned that my family wasn't about blood. It was about who was there for me when I needed them the most. And in the end, that was me. So, that's my story. It's a reminder that true wealth is not in your bank account, it's in your character. And sometimes, the best revenge is to walk away from the people who failed to see your true worth. Have you ever had to choose between your blood family and your chosen family? What did you learn? Share your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to hear more real-life lessons. Thank you for listening.